geometry students, Mr. Zacek, and I am back and better than ever here with you in Unit 9, Lesson 4. It's actually an early Saturday morning that I'm in working on this lesson, so I hope that you are still at home and sleeping. But here we are together right now, so let's get cranking. We're going to work on constructing rotations. So for the translation and the reflection, I just kind of tagged that little piece to the end of those lessons. But this one takes a little more work, so we're going to spend a little more time with it here. So the first thing I want to do is begin by reviewing constructing congruent angles. And step one of that process is that we are going to, when you're constructing a congruent angle, you want to begin with a reference arc. So I've got this red reference arc. I've drawn it already just kind of in the sake of time. And then the second step is you want to measure the opening of that reference arc with your compass. And you make a mark and then you bring it over to your other reference arc. And then that gives you the opening of the angle. So now you have 2 points with which to create our angle. So there we go. We have 2 congruent angles. And basically, rotation constructions are simply going to be us creating a bunch of congruent angles for the shape. That's kind of the essence of what this construction is. And it can get a little bit complicated. So let's head back here to this first example. And let's talk about what we have going on up here. It says we want to construct what is the image of this right here. So let's talk about what this stuff means. First of all, the capital R tells us that this is a rotation. Point P tells us that that is the center of rotation. And then it's going to be an angle of 90 degrees. So, and then of triangle ABC. Okay, so here's how we're going to begin. I'm just going to walk you through the steps. Step 1, connect A to P. So I'm going to, using a straight edge, we're going to connect A and P. All right, now we know that when we construct this, it's going to swing along that same distance. A prime will be the same distance from P. Step 2, construct the angle we need. Okay, well, what kind of angle do we need? We need a 90-degree angle. So we need kind of to make our reference angle. And you'll recall that probably the simplest way to make a 90-degree angle is to do a perpendicular bisector. So if we start off with a segment and we come up and let's put our compass point on one end of that segment and open more than halfway. In this case, you don't really need to do the full surfboard. You can, but again, you don't have to. You just we need the kind of the above and the below pieces. And I'm going to come to the other side. And you can do the full surfboard, but you don't have to do the full surfboard. All right, so we've got our 2 markings. And so we're going to come down from here with our straight edge, and we've just created a 90-degree angle. Hip, hip, hooray. Step 2 is done. Okay, now make an arc through the angle. That's what we refer to in our congruent angle, or what I refer to as a reference arc. So the key on this is that our arc needs to hit both sides, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend this line out a little further. And now that is my reference arc. Okay, and so with my reference arc, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come down here to point P, and I'm going to create this same reference arc here. Okay, now what are we doing? We're making a congruent angle. So the second thing we're going to do is step 5 here, measure the opening. I'll do it in green just to kind of keep that consistency. So I'm going to come up here and measure the opening. Okay, how far open? Okay, let's get it. And let me see, am I there? I got to go a little bit more. We'll call that close enough. Okay. Now 0.6. Now, so what am I going to do? I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put my compass point here. And what have I just done? Well, I've just created a 90-degree angle. Okay. Now step 7, we're going to draw a line. We're going to connect through those points. Okay, so we're doing great so far. We just made a 90-degree angle from A to P, and will be A prime. Here's the next thing we've got to do. We got to figure out how far away or how long does this segment have to be where we put the point A prime. In order to do that, how do we measure on here? Well, we always measure with our compass. So what I'm going to do is let's get a new color, and yeah, I think we'll go with blue. That's a good color. So let's see. Down here, how close are we? So I'm going to measure how far out that distance is. Okay, and then I'm going to bring it up here on this new line that I made, this new 90-degree angle, and boom, right there is the point A prime. Okay, what do? We made a 90-degree angle and it's congruent. AP is congruent to A prime P, or PA prime, either way. Okay, so those two segments they're equidistant from the center of rotation, and you have a 90-degree angle. All right, now here's the good news. All we're going to do is we're just going to go and repeat that process for B and for C. So let's do B next. So I'm going to draw a segment from P to B. Okay. And now I'm going to go back. I've got to go back to my angle here, and I've got to measure the reference arc. And I'll try to keep these all in the same color. Whoops. I'll try to keep them all the reference arc in the same color and the different measurements in the color, just to help keep that safe. Okay, so here's our reference arc. So I'm going to come back down here to point P, and now from this line we're going to draw our reference arc. And you notice what? Actually, it actually should be the same along that same arc here. So I'm going to just move that slightly. A little bit of that is the inconsistency of, the thickness and all that jazz. So now, what do we do next? Well, after we have the reference arc, we have to measure that angle. We need to get ourselves a 90-degree angle. Okay, so we need to measure it. I'm measuring in green. All right, so there we are. So now I'm going to come down here from this point on this line, and I'm going to make an arc, okay? And so now that's going to be the line for where our 90-degree angle has to come out of. So right through here, okay? And now we have to figure out, well, how far along that segment do we have to go to get B prime? And so this is our blue, this is our kind of final step with it, is I'm going to measure from point P down to point B. Okay, how far open is that? There we go. I'm going to come up here on this 90-degree angle that we've created, and I'm going to swing this arc, and what we've just created there is now the point B prime. Okay, so I'm going to put my little marking B prime. Now some of you're catching on, okay? You're kind of getting what's happening here, and we're going to repeat this process now for C. So let's just, walk ourselves down through the steps again. So I draw a segment from P to C. I'm going to draw the reference arc again, but understand that essentially we already have this arc drawn for us. I don't really need to do this step. I'm going to do it just for the sake of consistency, and sometimes you'll have to. So, whoops. Here is the reference arc, okay? So now I'm going to bring that same compass setting down here, and what do you see? It's all along this same arc that we got going on. All right, and now I need to measure that opening again. So I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to switch the color to green. Okay, and we're going to come on up. So here it is. Let's open it up a little bit. Okay, there's the opening of the reference arc. So now I'm going to come down and I'm going to copy that angle. So from this line down to C, I copy that angle, goes through there. Now this C is kind of far from P, so I'm going to make this segment longer. It's probably going to go up through into some of our writing, I would imagine. Okay, and hopefully my compass is long enough to reach this. I'm pretty sure yours is, but I'm not sure if this computer one is able to do this or not, but let's try it out. But here, open, open, open. Okay, see how that's not quite long enough here? I'm pretty sure yours is, but so let's just kind of, we'll do this. Here's how you do it when your compass isn't quite long enough, okay? We're going to do it in two, I'm going to do it in two markings. Watch this. Come on. Nope. I want to move this in a little bit. Nope. I don't want you at that angle. I want you at a different angle, compass. Ah. All right, come on. Anyway, I'm gonna bring up a different compass because that one is giving me trouble. Okay, so what you can do is if your compass doesn't fully reach it, you just make it into more than one compass marking. So if like I start here and then I come up and I measure there, okay, and then I come down here and I'm like, okay, now I need to finish that. And so I'm just going to measure from here to here. There we go. And then I'm going to copy that same distance up here. Whoa, look at that. I made the line just long enough. Okay, and that point now that we have up there, that intersection is the point C prime. Okay, so now we could take our straight edge and connect B prime, C prime, A prime. All right, and this is obviously like, you know, messy. There's a lot of markings on here, but you wanna leave your construction markings. But so it looks complex, and I think it is complex. But if we break it down to really what are we doing, we're just copying an angle over 3 times. Okay, so we got one more to work through here, and this one is, what is the image of a rotation? Let's talk through this again. We have a rotation centered at P of 60 degrees of triangle ABC. Okay, how are we going to get a 60-degree angle? Well, remember equilateral triangles have 60-degree angles. So let's just go ahead and create or construct an equilateral triangle. I'm going to do this one with yellow, I think. All right, so we start off with a segment. Doesn't really matter how long the segment is, as long as our compass will open that distance. And we come up, we come over to the other side because they're equidistant. And there we go. We got ourselves an equilateral triangle. Now we don't even really need to draw the whole thing. We're only really interested in the 60-degree angle, but you can. It doesn't matter which one. So let's go through the steps again. All right, so we're going to go from P to A. That would be our first step. Draw that segment. Okay. Now, with our angle, what do we need? If you said reference arc, that was correct. We need a reference arc. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to swing the reference arc. Okay, now one of the little shortcuts that you can do so we don't have to keep doing this reference arc bit is just to draw this as a full circle. And now we'll just, the reference arc will always be there, so I don't have to worry about repeating that. I can just worry about the measurement of it. So if I come back, I need to now measure the opening of that 60-degree angle. So I'm going to get my green one because that's what I've been doing to measure the opening. All right, how far open are you? And that seems like it's off just a little bit, but with this, the way the thickness of these pencils are, it's hard to get that just exact here on this program. Okay, so I'm going to come and there we go. So we've created the 60-degree angle, and now what's the last step? Well, really two steps. So we're going to draw that line through, and then we need to do our blue step, which is to measure the distance from P to A, and which will become the distance from P to A prime. So there it is. Bring it up. There we go. So the intersection of that point is A prime. Beautiful. Now we're going to go back and repeat that process. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a segment from P to B. I've already got my reference arc, so I'm just going to go ahead and go back to the measurement piece of this, where we bring it over here. Okay, how far do I have to open that compass? Okay, I'm going to bring that down here, so we're copying the angle. There it is. In this kind of case, don't make the marking longer than it needs to be. And then we'll just draw that segment through. All right, and then I need to measure that distance. So let's see, flip it around. So from P to point B, how far open do we have to go? It's like that's pretty close, maybe a little bit more. Yep, there we go. And spin it up. There we go, we got B prime. So this point right here is the point B prime. B prime. Prime. Now we go ahead and we do it for C. We repeat it again for point C. Let's go and get it. You could probably draw this segment lightly. Okay, now I've already got my reference arc, the red one. So I got to go back and measure the opening of that. So here we go. It probably would be like the kind of thing if I had two compasses, it might actually be helpful because I could just leave one as the setting and then, that's not a bad idea. So we're along here. C, and okay, there we go. It's going to go through that point. Now I'm going to make this segment a good bit longer than the others because C is further away from P. And probably, like I did last time, I'm going to have to do this with two steps, it looks like. Let's see. I don't think the compass is going to reach all the way down there. So I'm going to have to do this in a kind of a two-part phase. So here we go. There's one. Come on up. Whoops. And then let's measure that last little bit. So come down here and get ourselves that angle, that little piece, and then come up here and finish it off. So here we go, just the last little section. All right, and we have the point there, C prime, and then we're just going to take and connect A prime, B prime, and C prime. Okay, so there you go. You've got it. We're going to practice this some more. And, you know, one of the things is to recognize some of the other types of angles that you might be asked. Maybe you're asked to do a 30-degree angle. Well, if we have a 60-degree angle, we're just doing angle bisector on that. That would give us a 30-degree angle. We could do a 45-degree angle of rotation. Again, 45 is half of 90, so there's another way where you can go and get that. So an involved one, but kind of a fun one, and you know, make it fun and sort of figuring this out. There's some other ways to do it, and if you're thinking of those and you're curious, just please ask. We'll be happy to talk about it. All right, I'll see you back here soon.